Welcome to Roll for Insight, the D&D podcast where we dive into the game, the lore, and the internet's favorite arguments. Grab your dice and your character sheet, and let's roll for insight. Hello, welcome to Roll for Insight. In this episode, we're talking about the Barbarian Subclass, Path of the Zealot of the 2024 D&D Player's Handbook. Now, this is a path that's available to the Barbarian class at level 3, and this image is a dangerous-looking Dragonborn carrying a sword with an eye patch and some wicked-looking claws that looks like it's stalking towards its prey here. So, in this episode, we'll cover the description of the subclass from the handbook. We will not be covering the core Barbarian traits or the general Barbarian class features, though it will be a good idea to listen to the Barbarian class episode as we'll be referencing points from it. We'll give a breakdown of the subclass features from level 3 to 14. We'll do a general review of the strengths and limitations of the class. Then we'll pull some opinions from the internet, and then we'll end on some fun fact information about the Path of the Zealot. Okay, first topic for the description as written. The Path of the Zealot. Rage in ecstatic union with a god. Barbarians who walk the path of the Zealot receive boons from a god or pantheon. These barbarians experience their rage as an ecstatic episode of divine union that infuses them with power. They are often allies to the priests and other followers of their god or pantheon. Okay, so let's get into the subclass features here from levels 3 to 14. So at level 3, you get access to 2 features. The first is Divine Fury. The second is Warrior of the Gods. So the first one, Divine Fury. You can channel divine power into your strikes. On each of your turns while your rage is active, the first creature you hit with a weapon or an unarmed strike takes extra damage equal to 1d6 plus half your barbarian level rounded down. The extra damage is necrotic or radiant. You choose the type each time you deal the damage. So a couple clarifications here. This is once per turn, not once per attack. And it does scale as you level. So it's basically guaranteed extra damage on a hit. It's not conditional on anything else. So this one is very similar in function to the Berserker's Frenzy ability in that it's very reliable and consistent and it's not dependent on crits. You also have a lot of flavor that you can add with the radiant and necrotic damage, which is useful because it does bypass some resistances as well. It gives you a bit more of a roleplay and thematic flavor depending on your character build. Now, in addition to Divine Fury, you also get Warrior of the Gods. A divine entity helps ensure you can continue the fight. You have a pool of 4 d12s that you can spend to heal yourself. As a bonus action, you can expend dice from the pool, roll them, and regain a number of hit points equal to the roll's total. Your pool regains all expended dice when you finish a long rest. The pool's maximum number of dice increases by 1 when you reach Barbarian levels 6, so you have 5 dice, 12, so you have 6 dice, and 17, so you have 7 dice. So a couple of key points here. This does recharge on the long rest, and it can be used in or out of combat. And that gives Barbarians something that it normally lacks, which is an ability to self-sustain without relying on things like short rests or other party members and their spell slots. So this is going to pair really well with the high hit point pools of the Barbarian, plus the rage resistance. So now you've got the ability where you can recover mid-fight, and then it just depends on how you want to look at it. It's like a few free healing potions every single day, which is not bad for a level 3 feature. Now, at level 6, you get access to Fanatical Focus. So once per active rage, if you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it with a bonus equal to your rage damage bonus, and you must use the new roll. So, once per rage, when you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it, and then you add your rage damage bonus, which is going to be around +2 to +4. So this is a targeted fix to the Barbarian weaknesses. So yes, the bonus is small, +2 to +4, so you still might not be able to overcome the effect, but the important part is that reroll. It gives you a second chance against a lot of debilitating effects, like charm and fear and other crowd control effects that Barbarians are really susceptible to. Even though it doesn't always succeed, it does reduce the chance of being completely shut down, plus it's once per rage, which is a lot more useful than the once per long rest or even once per short rest. So this is a pretty big one for a frontline character. Then at level 10, they get access to Zealous Presence. As a bonus action, you unleash a battle cry infused with divine energy. Up to 10 other creatures of your choice within 60 feet of you gain advantage on attack rolls and saving throws until the start of your next turn. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest unless you expend a use of your rage, no action is required, to restore your use of it. So this is one of the strongest team buff abilities in the Barbarian class. As a bonus action, up to 10 creatures within 60 feet get advantage on attack rolls and saving throws until the start of your next turn. The recharge on a long rest or by spending a rage use. And you can use this one in a lot of different situations here. So this is a great way to do things like open up a fight, coming out swinging with advantage. It's a great one for the boss encounter burst turns or environmental effects when you know something's coming up. Now, you might want to save this for helping the party overcome some sort of like area of effect or crowd control or layer action, because everyone rolling a save with advantage is very useful. So this one is definitely an ability you can keep in your back pocket for when you need things to go right. Then at level 14, you get access to Rage of the Gods. When you activate your rage, you can assume the form of a divine warrior. This form lasts for 1 minute or until you drop to 0 hit points. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So while in this form, you gain the following benefits below. Flight. You have a fly speed equal to your speed and you can hover. Resistance. You have resistance to necrotic, psychic, and radiant damage. And Revivification. When a creature within 30 feet of you would drop to 0 hit points, you can take a reaction to expend a use of your rage to instead change the target's hit points to a number equal to your barbarian level. So this one is your capstone transformation. You turn into a divine warrior, and it lasts for 1 minute, so generally it's useful for 1 combat once per long rest. Now, the standout ability from this, it's probably leaning towards the improved Death Ward effect. When a creature within 30 feet drops to 0 hit points, you use your reaction, spend a rage, and instead they drop to your barbarian level in hit points. So this key feature here is that this is repeatable as an upgraded Death Ward effect. Now, it is important to note here that there is the positioning requirement, and it does burn some resources like rage charges and reactions, but it can completely prevent allies from going down, and that in itself can swing fights dramatically. So let's talk about some of the overlying strengths and limitations here. This subclass is a bit of a combination between being the damage dealer and being the protector. You've got the really reliable damage output because Divine Fury adds consistent extra damage, and the healing dice pool that you can burn as a bonus action gives you a lot of survivability. Same with the saving throw rerolls. Like, you're not always going to land those, but any reroll on a failed save, it's worth the shot. It's got really high impact late game features too, because that Death Ward effect preventing allies from dropping to 0 hit points, that one is very powerful. So limitations wise, the damage boost is moderate. It's not as explosive as some builds out there, and it still generally won't match the Berserker. And that saving throw boost and the healing, it is self-focused. You can't necessarily help your allies with these ones. So the resource management really does matter. You can't be burning through your rages completely because that is your core class feature. So it's just important to be aware of all the positioning that you have to maintain to maximize those support tools here. So let's look over a couple of the internet opinions about the Path of the Zealot. So a pretty common positive take here is that this is one of the well-rounded barbarian subclasses because it does a little bit of everything. It does some damage, it sustains itself, it really supports the party, and it doesn't over-specialize. It covers a lot of those roles really effectively. But on the flip side, while Divine Fury is solid, it's not overwhelming, and other subclasses are going to outpace that in terms of raw output here. But the one that gets the most attention here is that level 14 feature, because preventing allies from dropping to 0 hit points potentially multiple times in an important fight, a lot of players point out like that can completely change encounter outcomes, especially in the real difficult boss fights here. So overall, this feels like the heroic type of barbarian. It's really fantastic to play for the theme. You're not just raging, you're fighting with a divine purpose as a divine warrior. You're protecting allies. You refuse to let people fall. And this gives the barbarian a bit of a different tone. It's the divine champion style. So, ending today on some fun fact information, the Zealot subclass originally appeared in Xanathar's Guide to Everything in 2017. So it was originally designed to blend the barbarian rage with the divine themes that are usually associated with clerics and paladins, and that's where the divine champion aspect comes from. Now, the word zealot has Greek origins referring to someone who is fanatically devoted to a cause, and it stems from the word meaning zeal or jealousy, as in one who is jealous for a cause. And it's often attributed to religious warriors and fanatics driven by belief or divine purpose. Now, historically, zealots were people who would be willing to fight to the death for their cause, and that lines up really perfectly with the barbarian identity. Well, that's it for this session of Roll for Insight. Thanks for listening, and thank you to all our supporters on patreon.com/rollforinsightpodcast. And we will see you next time.